every good story has a hero, right? A protagonist, someone who's going to go through the story. Now, the first thing to understand is the difference between a character and a force. A character is going to change in the course of the story, right? A force is going to remain the same. So when we're talking about a hero, about the protagonist, we're talking about a character who is going to change in the course of the story. How's that going to happen? Well, the hero, the protagonist, will have a particular goal, something they want to do, a place they want to reach, something they want to accomplish, and is going to have in opposition a greatest fear that prevents them from accomplishing this goal. And what you want is for these two to truly be in opposition, okay? So when you've built that, that is the essence of the change that your hero is going to go through. They're going to initially try to avoid their greatest fear to accomplish their goal. It's not going to work. And eventually they will grow to understand they have to face that greatest fear. And when they do, they will succeed. Now, when we're talking about a goal, and when we're talking about avoiding the greatest fear, essentially what it means is that the hero is going to have two goals. They're going to have the outer goal, the clear, defined goal, which is the point of their plan, the plan they have to circumvent their fear. And essentially what that becomes is kind of a secondary goal, not an essential goal. It's something they want, but it's not something they need. And what they need becomes their inner goal. So usually what you have is, for example, a character wants to reach a certain place, but what they truly need is to find themselves, okay? And they're afraid of that, or they're unable to do that because their mind is clouded and so on, and they think that going on this road trip is going to help, but in fact on this road trip they realize a few things about themselves, and they're faced with certain challenges that reveals things about themselves, and that's when they understand what they truly need, not what they want, but what they need. And that is the ultimate quest of the character, and that's the ultimate change that they go through. If you can inject that in your story, it's the ultimate prize, okay? And you should do that with a little bit of layers in your character. Reveal things about them as you go, and explore the depths of that character. Show the flaws in the character, things that we might relate to, that might make us empathize with them. Not necessarily like them up front, but at least understand what it is they're trying to do, what it is they're choosing to do, so that we can then take a side, and go, I think that was a mistake, or ooh, that was very brave, I really like what they're doing. These kind of things get the reader on the protagonist's side, and eventually, you really want them to succeed at the end and achieve that inner goal and to get what they need. And if they can, what they want. So that's the balance you got to reach. One way to develop a character is to use what I call filters. So they're a way to define who your character is, who your hero is, by trying to describe them as something else. So for example, you can describe them as an animal. What kind of animal would they be? Would they be a bear? Would they be an eagle? Would they be a hyena? Would they be a wolf, a dog, or maybe an insect of some kind, a dragonfly, for example? That could be interesting. And then you also try to describe them as a plant, for example. Are they a strong oak? Are they a cactus? Are they an orchid, beautiful and delicate? Are they, some other kind of plant? And then you also try to describe them as a building. So perhaps they're a very comfortable cottage, or they're a tall skyscraper, or they're a caravan moving around, things like that. And you also try to describe them as a vehicle. So would they be a superbike, motorcycle? Would they be a truck? Would they be a sleek sedan, very luxurious? Would they be a sports car? And the idea is that when you describe them using these four different things, if you're consistent in your description, you're going to actually find out more about your character as you try to filter them through these points of views. So for example, if you define a character as a wolf, but you also imagine them as a plant to be a cactus, while at the same time you see them as a luxurious limousine as a vehicle, and as a pyramid, for example, as a building, you're noticing a couple of things here, right? You know, the wolf kind of hunts in packs and is close to others in his pack, but a cactus is quite individual. At the same time, a cactus can survive in quite harsh environments, so it's very resistant, very resilient. And a pyramid is an imposing figure, right? It's something that's fascinating and in awe of. We're in awe of it, and it's impressive. And if you combine that with the limousine, there's a luxury aspect, there's a historical aspect with the pyramid. So all of a sudden you see these all different facets of a character emerge, right? The key though is to remain consistent. You can create layers by exploring a character that way, but if you do it just randomly, it's not going to work. So you got to be consistent and credible in your choices, and then you're going to develop these rich characters that are going to be really exciting to follow. So try it out. When you build your hero, your protagonist, what's really good is to spend time with them. And by that I mean write out things that your hero does in everyday life. You know, what's their morning routine? What is their evening routine? What do they enjoy doing at the weekend? What kind of food do they like to eat? How would they help out a friend? Would they help out a friend? So things like that enable you to get to know them, because as you explore these mundane things, you get to know what kind of people they truly are when no one's looking. And that's really an important part of your character. And it eventually comes back in what I call small moments. In a story, those are moments where the character is really themselves. No one's looking. They have nothing to prove to others. They're truly being themselves. And that reveals a lot about a character. It's very, very interesting because we can all relate to that. We all have these small moments that we ourselves are privy to, but no one else is. And when you see those private moments in another character, you can engage with them and really, really get to know them. You as a writer, but also as a reader. Now, beyond that, you also want to put your hero in opposition to their environment, right? You want to create that kind of clash, that kind of not quite fitting in. And you know, you can relate. Most of us at some point have felt, you know, I don't feel like I belong here. I don't feel like this is right for me. I want to break out of this. I want to do something else. This is how you get your hero to consider that quest, that missing thing that they want, right? And because a lot of people can relate to that, it's going to help us engage with your hero. It's going to help you write someone who's truly unique. And that really gets you going, right? So try to put that clash between the protagonist and the environment they're in. So what are the elements you need to build a character, right? You need a few things, or at least you can start with a few things that really help. So first of all, what kind of choices would your hero or character make, your protagonist make? What kind of choices, and by that I mean, what would they always do? What would they never do? And that gives you the boundaries of your character within which they can make choices that are, you know, good or bad depending on the situation, right? What are their urges? What is the thing that they kind of want to do and can't really help themselves but do? Is it defend the innocent? Is it make money above all others? Is it something like this, an urge that drives them forward? What are their tastes? What do they like and not like? And this doesn't just have to be trivial, but it can be trivial as long as it reveals something about the character if you're going to use it in the story. If you just use it for yourself, then you can do whatever you want. But as you're researching your character, it's interesting to know what they like and dislike so that you can put them in certain situations, right? What are their strengths? So what are they really good at? What are their weaknesses? What are they bad at? What gets them in trouble? Yeah? And from weaknesses, you can go to flaws. What are their flaws? What is the thing that is ultimately gonna go, it's gonna be a little bit like an urge, but it's gonna be an urge you can stifle, you can turn away. Like the urge to eat chocolate, you can decide with willpower, I'm not gonna do that. A flaw, you can't help yourself. It's something that no matter what, you're gonna do it. And that is why you get in trouble, right? So that's why it's interesting for a hero. And of course, what's interesting in a hero is how they talk. The voice is a key element of your hero because that is going to influence the dialogue. It's going to influence a lot of the way they communicate and pass over information or share things, express their feelings. A voice is quite a tricky thing, and there's a whole module on voice and dialogue that you can take a look at. But those are the broad elements that you can use to build a hero, build a character. So when you're looking at all these different dimensions of your character, the strengths, weaknesses, and so on, you can take inspiration from public information. So look at social media, look at the press, look at real life is really what I'm trying to tell you, so that you can pick things from real life that you can inject into your character to make them credible. It's not necessarily a good idea to take influence from other writers, because you're going to end up repeating what these writers have done, and what you really want to express is yourself, your voice, and the way you would write a character. So by taking reality, which is through your lens, the way you look at reality, and incorporating that into a character, you're going to have much more success. So pick, weaknesses that you've seen in other people, or pick flaws that you've noticed in people around you, or in people on the news, but people in real life, and you can twist that and tweak that to make them your own and put them into your character, put them into your hero to make them really compelling and interesting. Yeah? Now a hero, in fact any good character, but most importantly your protagonist, is going to have to change over the course of the story. That's the whole point, right? If the hero stays the same, then nothing's really happening, because otherwise it would influence them. Now, how does a hero change? There are three broad ways that a hero or any character can go through a change. It can be as part of what happens in the story. So what happens in the story will cause them to change in order to adapt to what happens in the story. Another way they change is by making a particular choice. So if your character chooses to do something, it comes with consequences, and those consequences force a change upon the character to adapt to these new circumstances that are a result of the choice they made. Right? So it's slightly different than what happens in the story, because it's driven by them, whereas what happens in the story is driven by other people. And then you can have things that are driven by no one, but that are an external influence on the character, which causes them to change. So you can have a physical change, for example, if there's a storm, and they have an accident and they break a limb, or God forbid, anything more serious, then the character obviously is going to physically change. Or maybe psychologically scarred by this experience, and will result in new flaws, new weaknesses, or perhaps new strengths. So these three things are the tools you can use to inflict change on your character and make them evolve. And that's really the essence of a cool story. And now, as part of the story, remember that what you're trying to prove in the three steps, the beginning, middle, and end of your story, is at the beginning that your hero wants to change, wants that goal that they're after, right? The second part is that the hero is able to get the goal that they're going after, okay? So develops skills, learns, or demonstrates those abilities. And finally, and most importantly, the hero must deserve to win, must deserve to achieve that change. Because if they're able and they want it, it's all well and good. But if they don't deserve it, we're not going to go along. And deserving on its own, not enough. You need the other two to be there. So you have to build that in the course of your story. However short or long it may be, the longer it is, the more in depth you can go. But it does apply, most importantly, to the hero, the main character. Okay? So make sure you build that in. Your hero is going to be absolutely awesome.